Hi, everyone. It's 11:05 Central European Time, so we will give the kickoff in this webinar. So this webinar is part of the 5th Building Digital Twin International Congress, and that's why you can see Rita with ice cream in the Congress. So we are also broadcasting to the Congress, but it's basically a webinar. So I will start. So the webinar is about digital building permits, the pilots from Accord, and the outcomes for policymaking, decision maker, and standardization. This is the third webinar from a series of 3. So this is the final one. And it's about the training results, the training that we have developed. But before starting with the webinar, I would like to tell you that we will have a final seminar of Accord that we will discuss the future of the digital building permits with BIM power tools and methods. So basically what Accord have developed. This seminar will be in Brussels in person on the 19th June. At Building premises. So if you would like to join us, there is a QR code in the screen. Please scan it, register, and I hope to see you all there. Just to let you know, for this final seminar, this is our agenda. We will have a presentation of the project from Rita. Pablo Guterres Velayos will say some words about the European Commission and the digitalization environment. And then we will discuss, we have three presentations followed by panel discussions on how can AI support the advance of the digitalization of building codes? How can digital building permit process become more efficient and transparent? And the new frontiers in the digitalization of the build environment. There will be an opportunity during the lunch break for you to talk to Accord partners, to the software developers, and everyone that was involved. So please join us. I think will be a great opportunity to understand what Accord have done. Now, back to the webinar. So this webinar, we will have a welcome and then the Accord overview with Rita. And then we will have a very, very brief overview of the third training pack that the Accord partners put together for this webinar. And then the big part of the webinar is indeed an interactive discussion. So our idea is that you give us questions about the training pack, things that you would like to clarify, comments, feedback. And then we will have a reflection and warm up from my side, and we close at 12. So this is the idea. Without further ado, I will start. Welcome, everyone. I will present the speakers. My name is Larissa De Rosso. I'm project officer at the Architects Council of Europe and partner at Accord. Rita Lavica is a researcher, team leader at VTT and the coordinator of Accord project, sorry. Then Thomas Beach is the reader in the construction informatics at Cardiff University, also Accord partner. Jan Saar is a chief evangelist at Future Inside, Accord partner as well. Peter Harder is the senior scientist at VTT. Pasi Pasiala is the principal architect at Solibri. Gonçalo Costa is associate professor at La Salle. Marco Kivniemi is the senior scientist at VTT. Franco Chung is the professor in sustainability and built environment at Birmingham City University. Tarja McElwain is the senior scientist at VTT. And will be all our speakers. They all develop training materials and they will give a brief overview on the training materials. And now I would like to give the floor to Rita to give a brief overview of the Accord project.
Thank you so much, Larissa, for the introductions, and good morning, everyone. Greetings from Kaunas. Not so warm today. The spring is still waiting. but great to have you in this hybrid event. And I'm happy to present Accord, which is the Horizon Europe project started around 2.5 years ago. We have 21 partners from 11 European countries, and now it's our pleasure to present some of the results of this project. Next one. This has been our vision from the start of the project, to have a transparent building permit process for both the building permit authorities and the building control. And so the applicants and the authorities should connect to one building permit service, cloud-based system, which automatically is connected to other compliance checking services. Okay, can you hear now better?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And the idea is that everything happens kind of in the background, so the user gets the validation results of automatic compliance checks through the system, and this way we get a transparent system. And all these neighbor hearing and everything can be done via this online system. Next one. I think at least those that have participated in the workshops here have heard a lot of good things about digital building permit processes. A lot of benefits are there to be realized. Of course, we get better designs through these compliance checks that can be done by the designers before submitting the proposal. Of course, collaboration using similar systems, efficiency and transparency. Also, integration of BIM and GIS data will provide us the opportunity to better design better build environments. We can probably mitigate some of the risks from the design in the early phases, and of course do a lot of different sustainability analysis with the structured data. Next one. Okay, this is a simpler maturity model from kind of manual phase where we still use PDF as the submission format towards using IFC as the submission format towards kind of this semi-automated compliance checking, and finally BIM and GIS being integrated. And as you know, many of the European countries are still on this, let's say, PDF or having an online service, but some are now moving towards this automatic compliance checking. Next one. In our project, the basis for our work has been semantics and interoperability. So this picture tries to illustrate the concept. So we think that in the future, the regulations can be made both human and machine readable, which allows then software systems to do these kind of automatic compliance checking. So we have focused on making these regulations machine interpretable and then working on software companies to make these compliance checks. Okay, next one. And here is a brief overview of all the Accord results. So to have this kind of automatic code compliance checking, you need to have two streams. So these building permit applicants, they need to have the capability to do the structured BIM modeling. So we have made a starter package for the building permit authorities and other stakeholders. And we have also made a rule formalization tool for those that can make these regulations into machine readable. We have made a lot of technical development. We have created architecture, engineering, construction, and compliance checking methodology, and which is used by our building compliance rule language. And then we have experimented with both manual process and natural language processing way of translating those regulations into massively readable. We have a semantic rule repository with all these rules, and then experimentation with all of these softwares in non-building permit process. Next one. Just an overview of the demonstrations in 5 countries, in 9 real-life projects. Lots of different design codes, urban regulations, building acts, and degrees have been under focus. Next one. Then my last slide is about recommendations. So what we have learned from the demonstrations. So for the European Commission, especially, we kind of suggest to continue with formalizing massive readable regulations, have national but also regional repositories for the software developers, use open standards for interoperability, and adapt our onboard cloud architecture for that. Of course, collaboration between stakeholders is needed, and lots of education and competence building is needed here. And of course, we need more R&D funding and also private funding to make all this happen. Yes, but that's really shortly about the upward overview, and now we will hear more about these results. So back to Larissa. Larissa, you're still muted.
Thank you. I'm sorry about that. So now we will have a brief overview of the training pack just to refresh everyone's mind of what we have done, and then we will open the floor for discussion. So for this webinar, we have worked, the Accord partners have worked in all these training materials, and I will now ask them to the floor to explain briefly each of them. So the first one, Tom, please.
Oh, hello, hi. My name's Tom Beach. As I said, I'm from Cardiff University. So this video, and I'm not going to go through it in full because that would take too long, is really an overview of a piece of work we did right at the start of the Accord project, where we did a state of the industry review that involved us doing reviews of academic literature, industrial kind of best practice, grey literature, as well as talking to people in the construction industry. So we sent out a survey across all the countries that the Accord partners sit in, so like UK, France, Germany, Italy, etc. And we had about 400 responses across all of those, and this video presents the analysis and the findings, and those are really key in directing the rest of the project. So they allowed us to build from a strong basis of understanding where the industry is, where the industry wants to go, but also in terms of the technology, where the technology is going and where the technology should be going or can go.
Thank you, Tom. And then we move to Daria Gonçal.
Yes, this video is based on a very nice work where all those participant countries who has also the demonstration project in Accord, they were participating in forming something we call a transformation pathway. It consists of roadmaps and also actor-specific recommendations what should be done. So as Rita showed some common recommendations about this transition, there is also a country-specific overall recommendations. And we hope that the roadmaps are quite on a high level, but then can support some regional or city-specific roadmaps that how to take the steps forward in different areas, meaning that what applicants should do, what the building permitting officers should do, what should be done on on really the ministry level with to get the machine readable codes and checking rules in place, and then very important is that what needs to be done on the technological level, tools and platforms to support the whole transition towards more digital and enabling the automated code compliance checks there. Very important, I think, is that the kind of this transformation pathway is strategic as it will happen, the digitalization and using the technological and using the possibility of automations, it will happen, but all the stakeholders and actors should take this in form of a transition. So really knowing that what will happen and how they will and want to take the steps forward. So that's about the video. There's two cases, the Finnish roadmap and also Spanish roadmap, which is a kind of an attempt to also show that there are quite much differences in the transition pathways between European countries. So if you want to say something, Gonzalo, about the Spanish environment.
Well, I think that you explained it very well. So if the people are interested, I think they can check the video. Right, I think this is all.
Certainly, they can check the videos, and also, yeah, we are open to questions after the presentation. So then I will move back to Tom on building compliance rule language. Tom.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Me again. So this is a longer video, and it's actually kind of a three-part contribution from myself, from Gonzalo, and from Pasi from Celebri. And this video tries to present a kind of a unified picture on what we're doing in Accord in terms of automated compliance checking. It starts from the basis of actually how do you digitize a regulatory document? So how do you turn it into something that's machine readable, and how do you add to it the metadata and the existing information needed to kind of organize that document into a series of logical decisions, each which can be answered via look at the data in a BIM model or various other calculations or things that can be performed. That's the first element of the video that I deliver. The second element of the video is delivered by Gonzalo, and that showcases the rule formalization tool that he developed to support this process. So this is an open source piece of software that lets you kind of do yourself the various bits and pieces of this. So it's like a user interface. And then the final element is really looking from the sense of actually practically, you've got this nice digitized document, you've got all this metadata that we've added to it. How do you actually use that then to do compliance checking? And it shows how in the Celebri software, Celebri have essentially implemented a way that they can read in these digitized documents and then execute them to perform compliance checking. So that's a very quick summary of that video. It does go into a bit more technical detail, but I can't present it all here and now, but please take a look if it's something that's interest to you.
Thank you, Tom. And then we move to the case studies, the use cases in Accord. So the first one is Marco.
Okay, I'm Marco Kiviniemi from VTT. In these Finnish demonstrations, we studied some automated compliance checking for accessibility and operational safety. And as a specific case was some retrieving some data from IFC for National Billing Register. We had two ongoing projects during Accord with real stakeholders in the project. There were municipal building control authorities, owner, which was the same in both projects, and we have the three architect consultancies in the demonstrations. And the stakeholders were quite interested in BIM-based permitting, as in Finland, New Building Act requires providing BIM for permitting on start of next year. However, there is still need to provide also the drawings, which would make it easier to change towards this BIM-based process. And in Finland, we are doing the permitting with architectural design, but there are still some ongoing discussions. What is the level of detail for BIM to be used in permitting? And could you change the next slide? There should be one more. For demonstration were used cloud permit and Solibri cloud services. Here is some snapshots from cloud permits user interface, and we also applied this BCRL rule method that Tom was presenting earlier. And in practice, we go the process where architect updated BIM according some initial national requirements for the IFC contents. Then architect as an applicant uploaded the model into the service and make this kind of a pre-validation of the IFC data in order to make sure that the automated compliance checks can be done and get the feedback. And so this phase is some kind of a self-service for the architects. And it is some, let's say, key findings that the applicant do by themselves the first, and then the authorities will evaluate the findings there. And in this, some of these key findings can be found on this video. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Then we move on to another use case from Finland and Estonia. Peter?
So here is Peter Hagel from VTT. I hope you are hearing me, everybody. And this video is actually showing the whole life CO2 calculation. As Marco already said, in Finland, we have a new building act, and since the beginning of next year, also there will be compulsory submission of climate declaration, which contains the whole life carbon assessment of the building. So basically what we were trying to demonstrate here is the BIM to LCA process and its checking. Of course, we have already some commercial solutions also for BIM to LCA, including Solibri, Carbon Checker, and others. But here we were trying something new, something more automated, because even these existing solutions, they still need a lot of input from architects and from the applicants. So we are trying to go really like one step ahead and find out if we are able to do the checking even on some models which are not really perfect and are not improved to the highest quality, and still will be able to pass the limits. So yeah, there will be also limits for the level of carbon in different buildings. And therefore this video is a little bit introducing the whole service setup that could be theoretically running in the background of some checking service on the authority side. And there is also another video from the last webinar, which is describing the whole process a little bit in more detail. So I also encourage you to visit the training materials from the previous webinar.
Great, thank you, Peter. And then we move on to Spain, Gonçalo.
Okay, this is Gonçalo Costa from La Salle University in Barcelona. So in this case, this video introduced the service setup of the Accord project demonstration case dealing with the checking of urban parameters in Spain, considering the pilot case of Malgrat de Mar City Hall, that is a city that is near to Barcelona. So when we talk about parameters or urban parameters, we mean, like, for example, things like checking the maximum height of buildings or the kind of use of the buildings, these kind of things. So the case involved two demonstrations considering the permitting process in two ongoing projects, the renovation of a cultural center in the center of the city, and a production plant extension, that is a building from a factory. So the video explains the system architecture designed for the checking in this case, and how the process is carried out from the technological point of view through different components that are involved in each part of the process. So if you are interested in this case, so you please can check the video. Thank you.
Thank you, Gonçalo. And then we move to Jan.
Yeah, hi. For the Estonian use case, actually in Estonia, the BIM-based building permitting process is already active and live. It is integrated into the government system for processing building permits. But for the awkward project, we decided to use Future Insight Solutions Clearly BIM, which is a standalone solution that you can use to run IDS checks and more complicated regulatory compliance checks. The first version of that is also integrated into the Estonian government system, but it was more flexible to work on a commercial solution here in the awkward project. And we looked at a few additional new legislation and regulations, for example, for regarding schools, some accessibility stuff, fire safety. And the video shows you that it's actually quite easy to check using software such as Clearly BIM to do BIM-based compliance checking, to automate it. And yeah, it's not rocket science. It's already working in Estonia. We have software solutions out there that provide all the functionality. So it's more about, roll up your sleeves and start doing it. And we have an education package, a starter pack as well, which includes a lot of good pointers and a step-by-step guide on how to get started. So yeah, check out the video to see how it could work in your city or your country.
Thank you, Jan, for the Estonia use case. And yes, we do have an education package. Was presented on the last webinar, and it's available on Accord website. So if you want, please check this out. And then we go to UK, Franco.
Thank you. My name is Franco Chung, professor in Sustainable Built Environment, Birmingham City University. The project is a collaborative research between Birmingham City University and other engineering in Italy. And so it's a 3 years work to get, we try to learn from the overall Accord development. And in this case, what we did is that we make use of a Hadley structural steel modular construction as a use case. And in the UK use case, what we did is that we try to make use of the BIM model for the lightweight steel structural model. And then we enrich the BIM model and make use of information delivery specification, a technique to verify whether the model has sufficient information within it to conduct a task. So in our case, our task is to check the structural steel member to ensure that the members, they are fulfilling all different sort of checks, such as shear test and so on. And we try to link the check with an open source finite element analysis software called Codasta. So in the project, we make use of a approach using semantic web technology, and the approach has been published in a research paper in Advanced Engineering Informatics. For information, you can check the video, which would give you a little bit more details. And what we also did is we carry out a workshop in the end after we developed a proof of concept tool and show the tool to various specialists. And then we collected some feedback. Our feedback identified that the tool could could have a potential to be used by both the designers as well as the regulator, in the sense that it would potentially give them a bit more certainty in terms of the works that they produce, because apparently a lot of structural checks is based on norms, and the use of the alternative approach in this case study give them a little bit extra level of information of the check itself. And we also try to review the case using the cloud architecture produced by Accord, and then identify certain aspects that we can fit in as an offering of microservice within the Accord cloud structure. And for reference, if you are interested, please watch our video. Thank you.
Thank you, Franco. So with that, we close the brief presentation on our training materials, and we open the floor for questions. We are quite keen to understand if you have any feedback or comments on what you have saw or perhaps seen in the training materials. So any questions for now? Can either open your mic or put in the chat box. We can have a look on the chat box as well. No questions. It seems that we did a great job. We explained quite well. So if that's the case, perhaps to start to warm up, we have a quick survey on Slido. So I will change here to our Slido, because we really want to hear from you. So please, if you could scan the QR code, access on your mobile, but also if you are connected to a computer, you can go with slido.com, and then you add in the hashtag, you add Accord3, and then you can have access to the Slido questions. Will be really just few questions, so then we can better understand or having a bit of feedback from your side on our training materials and Accord project as well. So I will start the poll. So our first question. So now that you have seen a little bit of our training materials, is there any improvement to be made? What do you think about our training materials? Okay, we had a first answer. Okay, 3 answers. Good. Yes, there are room for improvement. Good. Anyone else? Okay. Okay. Well, we would be keen to hear where do you think we should improve? If you have any comments on that, this would be really good feedback for us.
I was Larissa, actually one of them who put the room for improvement as yes.
Okay.
But because well, there's always room for improvement, right? And we have a lot of good stuff. But a lot of it is also very kind of research focused. It's very technical, so it might be difficult to understand for people who are not maybe engineers or technical background, so more kind of policymakers regulatory level. So I think we whenever possible, we should also in our materials try to think about simplifying the message and really emphasizing that there is not a lot of research to be done. A lot of research has been done. Now it's time to implement. I keep
Great.
telling the same thing over and over again, but I think it's hopefully someone will listen and it will get the message through.
Sure, sure. I think this is very important, and also to target the different audiences that are not exactly super technical, super yeah, IT oriented. Let's put this way. Great.
Yeah.
So then I will move to the next. Okay, Tom, would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to follow up on what Jan said, and one of the really interesting things about what we're doing in Accord is that when you look at the technologies and the demo cases we've delivered, we've got some demo cases which our technologies have been able to support that are really quite mature, in like the Estonian and Finland one, where there is already established processes emerging to which the technologies have to be applied. So in those cases, we're taking technologies and utilizing them in processes that are already in place or emerging. But then we've got other use cases which are very much more on the kind of the research and development side, where there are no actual processes or implementations actually out there. An example of that is like what we did in the UK, what we did in Spain, where very much the technology is leading it, because what we're doing is proving with the technology that this is possible, with the hope that actually the evidence of this will bring the local authorities, the permitting authorities along on the journey with us to actually enable then eventually after the project, because a research and development project from the European Commission can only do so much, that will be able to take these forward to actually see real implementation. So there's real interesting kind of sort of duologies there between the two. And one of the things we'd be interested to hear from is, if you're from a permitting background or consultancy, however, what sort of background you're from, what sort of category do you fit into? And then we can almost certainly look at how what we've done in Accord can apply to that. If you're actually quite mature in terms of your thinking for process, how can the Accord technology be adapted to fit that? Or actually, if you're at the point of, you want to do this, but you don't really know how you're going to do it yet, then also that Accord, I think, can contribute there. But sorry, Larissa, I'll let you carry on with the Slido now.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much. Yeah, and we got another answer meanwhile. Well, thank you very much for all your comments. We will move on. So, is there any other topic that you would like to learn about? Is there anything regarding the digitalization of building permits that you think should be further explored, or a topic that is missing? Is there anything that you can think of? It seems that we have a very quiet audience today, a bit shy perhaps, but let's see. I will wait a little bit more to see if I can get any feedback from our audience.
You can also write to the chat, so you don't have to use the Slido.
Practical experience and implementations, yes. GEOBIM integration, yes. This is one of parts of Accord, the practical experience, the use cases in Accord, yes. Okay. Recommendations at EU level, yes, we are very aware that European Commission is looking to digitalization of building permits, especially in the framework of affordable house task group. So yeah, we are quite keen in providing these recommendations. Verification of costs and design documentation, yes. Okay. from my side, what templates, ideas? Okay. Perhaps there's also a discussion on the digitalization, urban data model and requirements standardizations. Okay, yes. And perhaps also a discussion on the contractual framework when using BIM. The technology is changing a lot, but there are so many things related to technology that needs to evolve. So, and especially the documents that are legally bound to contracts to move from PDF to BIM. So these are all, perhaps topics that might push forward the digitalization of building permits as well. So I will move now to another question. So this is really to understand how useful you think is this training material. Would you use this training material in the future? Would you have a look? Would you check out what we have done? What do you think? We had so far. Yes, that's great. Yeah, the answers are coming, and it's yes. That's really, really great. Good feedback for us. Okay. Okay, so then, yes, any comments? I just saw a comment on the chat box from Louise. So a lot of examples on how to write machine-readable regulations. I'm curious on the levels in other countries. That's great, Louise. Would you like to expand on this? Would you like to take the floor?
Or maybe Gonzalo, if you want to introduce the rule formalization tool.
I had no any presentation, but I can pass the link, and I think that maybe if you can play with the tool yourself, can be also useful.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, I will provide the link then.
Thank you, Gonzalo.
But I think it's also it's a very good question. I mean, going down to the machine readable regulation, because from my experience in Estonia and working at Future Insight now, it's and also in Accord when we were looking at the Estonian regulations, the biggest problem I see with automating kind of regulations into machine readable code is the fact that regulations have been written by humans for humans, and there's a lot of room for interpretation in there. So when you're doing this process, what we've done in Estonia, or how we started doing it just manually, which is not that complicated, by the way, and there is a process for that as well within the Accord deliverables and training material. But what you realize when you start looking at those regulations and seeing the room for interpretation, then you have to make a decision. And the best way to do that is you gather people together who represent both the regulatory side, the policymakers, the people who actually do the building permit checking, and also somebody from the technical side or the BIM engineers who understand how requirements can be put into in a proper way into a BIM model. So and it is this group that then actually can make a decision on, okay, how do we interpret this piece of regulation, and based on that you can then create a machine readable check. But I think it's within this project in Accord and also in the sister projects, and more I see a need for kind of, okay, but we should start making regulation already machine readable from the start. But this is a very, I would say, long road to take, because then you end up with a bunch of lawyers in a room, and it's going to get complicated. But you shouldn't wait for regulations to become machine readable. You can start automating the process now. Again, the same record keeps playing over and over again with me, but I just want to emphasize that it's not really an issue of regulation or whether or not we can convert it to machine readable. It's really just about sitting down, looking at, okay, what are the checks we want to do, which take a lot of time, which we can automate. Let's see how we can do that. We need to make some assumptions. We need to make some agreements on how we interpret them, and it's not going to cover 100%. But there's the 80-20 rule. I mean, if you manage to capture 80% with the least amount of effort, then you can already work from there and iterate again.
Jan Louise put in the chat box, she said, exactly, Jan. We are about to rewrite our regulations in Denmark. It won't be difficult to write it machine readable, though there is a lot of decision making on regulatory levels, as our regulation is very function based.
Yeah, exactly. And my message is just that you shouldn't wait for the regulation to become machine readable, and you shouldn't get stuck on it, because that is going to be a very complicated process and it's going to take a lot of time. But if you want to really see the benefits of getting better speed, efficiency, transparency, and quality out of building permitting process using automated BIM checks, then you should really start with just a small sample first.
Thank you, Jan. Okay.
I have a comment or question to Louise. Like, it would be interesting to know what is how they are going to turn the regulations into machine readable format. What would be the format? What would the format be?
Louise, would you like, I don't know if from Rita's computer, if you could perhaps join the conversation?
Okay, there is some like ISO Zen are working on it.
Yeah, so, I see Andre's comment as well that ISO and Zen are working on machine readable standards, yeah. But I think it's a bit different. I mean, one is building code and regulatory compliance, where you have more, I would say, room for interpretation than in many standards. And maybe it's a question also of, okay, it's a format. You can make any text into kind of machine readable or JSON format or XML, but that doesn't mean that you can actually make or run an automated check based on that regulation.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know.
Yeah, maybe, Pasi, you can also give the context that we have been developing this building compliance rule language, which Thomas mentioned. So that format is one way to write the regulation into both human and machine readable. And just visioning that maybe this BCRL format could be actually integrated into the decision-making process, that also the authorities can read it so that they know how the machine is making the compliance checking. But Pasi, you are the better expert to explain this to Louise.
Well, I mean, apparently, like there's also already some work in progress, so it would be interesting to know what is the format and is that really machine readable? Like, can that really be understood by a computer? Even BCRL is quite hard to understand. Or let's say, like the format itself, the computer can understand it, but then it can have some terms that still make you scratch your head. So
I think the benefit of BCRL and the goal of Accord project was to propose a language or format where we could describe the algorithm of a check. And the idea is that, you know, if more and more cities or governments start automating their checks, start creating those algorithms, we will start seeing more and more overlap between different countries and different governments, because in the end, we're all checking the same stuff, to be honest. But the regulation is often very different, or it reads very different. It's in a different language, and again, interpretation comes into play. But in the end, if you boil it really down to properties and parameters, you can start to see the similarities and the patterns. And yeah, I think that is definitely a very interesting development. But to really get to that benefit, we need to see more and more adoption. Again, let's start doing it. Not just in Finland, not just in Estonia, but other places.
That's a great message, Ian. Okay, so I think I don't know if Louise would like to add something from the audience. Otherwise, we carry on with our Slido. Thank you, Louise. So yeah, the next question for public authorities. Do you think that the digital automated compliance checking will improve the quality of approved projects and reduce errors in the construction phase? Do you think this can be a benefit? Do you think this could happen by implementing the BIM-based permit? Okay, we have 2 answers, which is yes. Okay, great. Let's see. Okay, 4. Okay, that's great. And yes. So this can be a very big opportunity for the digitalization of building permits using BIM. Any comments? Okay, so then we move to, okay, 5. Okay, we move to the next question. So do you think that digital automate compliance checking of IFC files will shorten the time for initial processing of the application, negotiation between the parts involved in the permitting process, both, none of them? So do you think both? So do you think it will shorten the time for these activities?
Maybe as a comment, Larissa, regarding the previous and this question as well, is well, I fully agree that it gives efficiency and it will speed up both the initial processing and the negotiation. But we should also be realistic in the fact that with the adoption of any new process or technology, there's going to be a learning curve. So you won't see the benefits right away from day one, because it's first going to take time for the engineers and architects to really get used to the requirements, get used to the new tools, for the building authorities to adapt. BIM, some of them have never seen a BIM model. So that will take a bit of time. So there will be, like with any new technology, there's the first adapters, and there is a learning curve where you won't see much efficiency gains, and you might see the opposite. But once you get over that initial hump of that learning curve, you will see very fast adoption and a very big return on investment, or the benefits. But just to be clear, that it's not something that you can just pick up from day one and it'll solve all your problems. It takes a bit of time, and the sooner you start, the better. And you should start with small, a few checks to introduce to the industry, and then build from there. Not to make a huge project out of everything. And now again, I'm talking to the municipalities and the policy guys here. Not to make a huge project that'll last years and years, and then you come out like, well, now it's done, and everybody enjoy. It's not going to work like that, because industry adoption will always take more time. But the only way to do it is to start doing it.
Yeah, correct. From the architect side, I mean, needs training. We need to train staff. We need, but also training new people, people coming from the college, the university. So this is really, yeah, it will take time for the transition. Yeah.
And maybe one more nuance or aspect I would like to add is that if you want to automate the checks, you have certain requirements for the BIM models. You need to have certain elements, certain properties, attributes within those models. Designers and architects, they already know, and they have probably a lot of requirements coming from left and right from this client or that client. And not always it's clear why they have such extensive requirements or needs for data, and you don't really see them using it. So that is another issue you have to tackle, that you shouldn't create like a huge manual of, okay, I want you to put every possible property you can think of into a model, because that's stupid. You should put only those properties, those data points that are needed for either this or that check. And the only way to do that is to start doing those checks. And the benefit of that is then the architects, engineers will see the value of their work. Like, yeah, it will take some extra time to put in maybe some additional data into the model. And, you know, everybody's asking to put that, it's life cycle, this and that. We may use it sometime, but if you see like, okay, I really need to put this property for a fire rating, because otherwise the check for the fire zones will not work. That is clear benefit, and why should I do that? And it really helps, and it will in the end speed up the process. And if you build from that, you get more and more properties, but you should do those in parallel along with the checks, so you know exactly where you're using it. The properties and the requirements should be derived from the need of the checks, not the vice versa, which I've seen quite a lot happen, to be honest. And the same case was in Estonia. Like we have a really big manual for the Estonian BIM standard, but in the end, for doing the 47 checks in Estonia in the government system, we only needed like a handful of properties from that, or in addition to that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I'm quite conscious of the time, and I know that we have a comment in the chat box. So from Andre, just checked ISO IEC focus on developing a smart standard using the Reg IF format. Okay, thank you, Andre. So then I will move to our final question in the pool. So we are moving towards the end of the webinar. So what would you be the most difficult issue when transferring digital automate compliance checking? Need to hire and train new personnel, initial investment costs, developing clear guidance and requirements for applicants. What do you think is the most difficult issue from these three? We talked already about the training. Okay, developing clear guidance and requirements for applicants, yes. Initial investment costs, yes. Yes. Yeah, they need to hire and training, yeah.
Can I comment on this, Larissa?
Yes,
again?
please.
I'm sorry, I'm always interrupting you and taking over, but
that's the idea. Please.
But it's a good question, and it really got me thinking on the three choices for the answer. I couldn't really pick one. In the end, I picked initial investment costs because, but I think maybe there's one more additional one missing, is the buy-in, or the understanding of the benefit. Like, yeah, essentially, well, investment follows, you know, wherever there is return on investment. But it's often that the decision makers don't really get it. They don't understand the benefit. They think it gets too technical, and they don't really see maybe the added value. So Yeah, I'm just wondering how to word maybe the fourth option is
awareness raising of the
yeah,
benefits, perhaps.
yeah, maybe that would also be my my choice as well.
Yes, yes. To communicate and creating materials that explain in a lay language, in a language that's not too much technical, on what's the benefits, how this would benefit the process.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to be honest, I would say that you shouldn't need to hire and train new people. The whole idea is that you can be more efficient with the people you have. And for example, with Clearly BIM, what the solution we've developed, it's cloud-based. It works in a browser. It can be integrated into any system, and we've really tried to take away buttons, so it is easier and simpler to use. It doesn't have all the functionality of more advanced BIM viewers out there. But that is actually by design, so that you wouldn't need BIM engineers and experts to do these checks. They should be the same people doing it now, only they can do it faster and better. So yeah, but I also agree that the guidance and requirements are key to really making them good and simple and clear. But we have also a really good training material for this and deliverables from the Awkward project, like the paper written by Leon and Rick and others, and Pasi was also, I think, involved in there. I can't remember all the names, but you can see it from the deliverables, and it's also in the education pack. It's mentioned.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Ian. So yes, we are heading to the end of the webinar. As we said in our website, there is a lot of material about it. We have a training area, a hub that you can access, and you will find all the training content developed by the project. But of course, we have also our social media. So we are heading to the end of the project. So you will hear a lot from us about our materials, what we are doing, especially on social media. And please don't forget to register and join our final seminar. I guess thank you very much for your attendance. And I hope to see you soon. Thank you.